Hey everybody, this is Don from A Life's Journeys and welcome to Trip Clips for April 17, 2019. Today's big travel news, the President Trump administration in the United States has announced a reversal of the easing of sanctions that were introduced during the Obama administration in relation to Cuba. Over the last few years, American tourism and by extension of that, tourists from other countries have helped tourism to Cuba blossom quite a bit. With the easing of travel restrictions and allowing tourist travel to Cuba, we've seen way more flights from the U.S. to Cuba, cruises, tours, etc. I expect that there's a number of non-Americans who have taken advantage of cruises, for example, a different way to travel to and experience the island. It's the restrictions that originally became imposed as a result of the revolution in 1959. So this is dealing in part with a 60-year issue. But what does it mean for travel? Largely, what it could mean is that all of those cruises that have been introduced, the tourist tours, and a lot of those flights that have started operating at Cuba could now face a rollback, and that's a pretty significant thing for Americans wanting to travel to Cuba. It basically puts it back to if put in place the same way. And there's still some detail that's leaking out about this and trying to find out what's going on. But it could mean that the doors are basically shuttered again. Yeah, I won't get into the politics around it. That's not what this channel's all about. And whether it's good, bad, indifferent, I'm just going to report the facts. This is what it is. Even the rationale behind it, there's a whole pile that goes into that. And I'm just going to talk about the implications. The one point that I will bring up, because this is part of where the impact can be for non-Americans, because historically, even though there's been a restriction on Americans, citizens of many other nations have been able to travel to Cuba and have been traveling to Cuba throughout the past decades. And taking full advantage of the sun and the beaches and the full tourist infrastructure. It's a top travel destination for Canadians, and though I've never been, I understand from others that have been there. There can be a lot of Brits, a lot of Spaniards, a lot of French, visiting Cuba, and so that's not necessarily going to go away. Where it can be an issue, though, for some is that these reversal of the easing of sanctions also potentially means that the old Helms-Burton Law is going to come to the forefront again, and that's a law that basically said a company or person using confiscated assets. So what was an American-owned asset in 1959 at the time of the revolution, can be subject to sanction in the United States, and can face litigation and severe financial penalties in the United States. So that means that let's say a hotel developer or something like, let's just use that as an example, a foreign interest. Let's say it's a Canadian company or a British company decides they want to go in, build a hotel in Cuba on land that in 1959 was owned by an American. They can now be subject to sanctions, even if they just acquired the land and built it 2 years ago. 58 years after the revolution, they can still be subject to additional sanction. Which makes it hard. There's been, in the past, when this became a big issue, there were a number of Canadian business people who had interest in Cuba who, frankly, weren't able to enter the United States, and it was always a problem then also flying over the United States. So Um, I mean, I just that is out there as just a word of information on what some of the implications could be. So, I think that's sort of the core of the issue that's out there, core of what the implications are. Something for everybody to monitor and watch for, particularly if you have already booked a trip to Cuba or are trying to plan a trip to Cuba, and most notably for Americans. For people from other countries, frankly it could mean that prices have escalated in Cuba over the last few years. We may see travel prices decline again as hotel occupancies will go down if Americans aren't able to travel to Cuba. So there's a few of the implications that I think we're going to be seeing and facing. So watch it carefully. Drop a comment on this. Let me know what you think. Let's have a bit of an exchange. Were you planning to travel? Would you have gone to Cuba? I know there's people that even though it was open, their viewpoint was, no, that's still, I'm still not going to go there. But I'd be curious to find out, is this going to impact your travel plans? Has it changed your opinion? Will you go? Will you not go? So anyway, look forward to seeing those comments, and hopefully this has been some good information, and you give the video a like, drop a comment. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and hit the bell so you can get notifications when we put other videos up. So thanks very much for watching. Have a great day, and may your life's journeys be everything you dreamed of.